Good morning, everybody. Welcome to
Good
At
morning.
the Inn of the Golden Man Part 2. Today we are discussing the Best Picture nominees for the 95th Academy Awards that's going to air tomorrow night. I'm Matt, and I'm here as always with Mike and Sebastian. Boys, how's it going?
Good
How are
morning.
you?
I'm all right.
Good.
I'm
Yeah.
not as
Great.
caffeinated as Mike over there, but I'm
Nope,
getting there.
I've had way too much, and I'm kind of shaky. So this is hard. It's hard to sit still right now.
Mike's
Well,
on
try
his
not to
sixth
vibrate the
cup of
roll over,
coffee.
Mr. Allen.
God, pretty much.
I've had two, so
Well, I think we're going to forego our usual news and notes around the horn here, and I'm just going to get into our 10 Best Picture nominees.
it's
Real
all about the
quick,
best pictures today.
a little background on all of them, and then we'll ask some very important questions at the end. What what were those questions, Seb? You had them all.
So we're going to answer 4 questions each of us near the end of the show. So I'll give you a little prelude of what questions we're going to ask. So the first question that we're all going to address, we're going to talk about this at the end, is which movie should absolutely not be on the list of Best Pictures? That's question number 1. Number 2 is what is the dark horse to win Best Picture? And then who do we each individually feel like we want to win Best Picture, and what is actually going to win Best Picture? I've watched most of them, and it's pretty difficult to narrow it down, honestly. There's a lot of eclectic different shows, movies that are out there. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting watching the Oscars tomorrow night in passing.
Mhm.
I don't think I have it in me to sit down and watch 4 hours at the Oscars just directly, but I will have it on and be doing other stuff and pay attention during certain things.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah. So
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to watch it just because I don't kind of got old for me.
it's a
Granted,
very
last year
yeah.
they pulled a Vince Russo and added a little bit of a surprise in there, which I still think is 100% a work of Will Smith slapping the shit out of a terrible comedian that has yet to write a funny joke. But we'll see how that turns out.
Well, I think the monologue tomorrow is going to be pretty funny with Jimmy Kimmel doing it. Tom Cruise apparently is going to be in the front row, so he's going to make fun of Tom. He's going to mention last year for sure. You have to, right?
Oh,
You
have to.
can't.
I mean,
the Netflix special just aired last week, right? So
Yeah.
he's brilliant, Chris Rock, because he's waited a full year before his rebuttal, and it's a week before the Oscars, and he
Yeah.
puts out his special. So obviously there's extra attention towards it.
Yeah.
So
I do have some odds up for all the categories if we want to talk about that too.
Interesting.
Yeah, man, because you can bet on everything. That's
the
just,
Vegas
oh
odds.
yeah,
some Vegas
Yeah,
odds on
Okay.
picture and actors, and we can go through as we go through. We can talk about that too.
I'm curious what they have as the front runner for the best picture as Vegas odds.
Would you like to know right now?
Sure. Give us the list.
Okay, Everything Everywhere All at Once is minus 700, so they are the huge favorite.
You know what? Hold on a second here.
Sure.
If you have all 10 on there,
Yep.
why don't,
Okay.
as we go through these, you give us the odds as we hit each picture?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
Do
let's start out. The first one's a weird one, and I don't mean weird by the film itself, because it is by far the least weird of all of them. All's Quiet on the Western Front, German language, World War I. This is coming in with 9 nominations for picture, international picture, original score, sound, hair and makeup, visual effects, adapted screenplay, cinematography, and production design. So it's got a lot of behind the scenes stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have seen this one. I've seen 6 out of the 10. Really, it got tough to watch because it brought back some memories of some stories my grandfather told me. But the weird part is it had a $20 million budget, but because it's primarily on Netflix and had a very limited theatrical release, we have no idea what the returns are. So we don't know if this made money, lost money, or how Netflix even decides this.
It's a huge boon for Netflix, though.
Absolutely.
Even if it just wins best international film or best foreign film or whatever the category is called, it's international film, which I think it will. It's just considering a lot of people are jumping ship on Netflix. whatever. I mean, people have their own opinion on what Netflix is doing with the password, anti-password sharing stuff and whatever. But for Netflix specifically, this is a huge boon in their business to have a film nominated as exclusively on Netflix for Best Picture and Best International Film.
Well, like, let's talk about the budget a little bit, because it's a war movie. Generally, war movies cost a lot of money, and $20 million nowadays for, you know, a movie with a lot of action sequences, or just, I guess action sequence would be the right word, but with a lot of moving parts and a lot of things going on. And I don't know if it was all CGI or not. I have no idea. It didn't look CGI to me, but
no. I was having this discussion. I think maybe parts of the tank scene were. However, there is a part where a tank crashes down into a trench. Probably not. But let's remember that the Western Front wasn't that big to begin with. It was only a few hundred meters on both sides, if that. So a lot of these set pieces, I mean, it's just filming trenches from either side, right?
Yeah.
And then a lot of the
there you go, 90% of the movie, and then a little farmland here or there.
The chicken,
it was a tough watch.
Or the goose.
The chicken was
the goose.
Yeah,
had to go for that second one, didn't you, you fucker?
Greedy.
But yeah,
it is a hard watch for me. I couldn't watch it all in one sitting. I had to take breaks because it's a very heavy movie.
Yeah, I had to pause. Yeah. Mike, how'd you sit this? You were the first one to see this.
Yeah, I saw it months ago, and I like war movies a lot, and I found this excuse me, it was very powerful. And you know, there's not much dialogue. You're basically following four guys basically thinking they're going to do the greatest thing in the world, and then they quickly realize they're in hell. And it follows them through their journey. And it's just, it's really heavy. It's tough. It's, even though it is told from, you know, at the time, the bad German side, it's not everybody felt the same as governments and high-ranking military officials. So the poor people that had to go fight, you quickly learn that this war is bullshit and all this sucks. There's no reason for it, right? So it was a heavy watch, and I did it all in one go. I really enjoyed it. I honestly couldn't stop. I had to finish it. And
I know the specific break point was the tank scene. My grandfather told me a story about being in the trenches as those went overhead.
Jesus.
He was in Korea and World War II. That's one that got me. That got me. Kind of getting to me a little right now. It's you know, a good war movie should be a tough watch. I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're not meant to be a glorified, hey, look at us, we're blowing up other people just for fun.
No, we're not.
Not
we're
at
not
all
in that era anymore. There are lots like that, but we're not in that era. I think with the globalization of media starting around Vietnam, that went away. The World War II, Korea were going off gung ho. Sort of disappeared around, you know, the 60s, 70s with Vietnam and the horrors coming back and the horrors being filmed.
It started to be talked about, right? It was like World War II. Nobody talked about what happened in World War II. If you were there, you said, "Yep, I was there," and that's it.
I think also importantly too, it's not like, while the incident of the Western Front is a horrific, hellish landscape where people had to live and die for 4 years over fighting over 100 meters of ground, but I think the important message of the movie, thematically wise, is the false propaganda and false promises that are given to people when they know the war is lost, or they know where they're sending them, but like, you can't tell them the reality of it or they'll never go. So it's just like the coercion of words to sell this war hero image to these young boys when they know 99% of them are going to be dead in a trench in a week.
And by the end, they were sending children, and it was just, they were just throwing everything they could. And it's
I mean, something like 17 million people died over 100 meters of ground.
That was a lot.
I feel that we can break this down. Maybe one day we'll discuss combat films and stuff like that. Let's not. All I want
to say to close this topic is, I'm not going to ruin the end for anyone that hasn't seen it, but man, just 15 minutes if you just waited 15 minutes.
Right.
Oh yeah, no,
Exactly. Yeah.
the last
If
20
you've
minutes
seen
of
it,
the
you know what
movie
I'm
is
talking
like
about.
fun.
Um,
Yeah, that
That
you know
that
what?
kind of breaks you.
Let's move on because I'm gonna
okay.
go get
You want the
snacks.
odds for this first? Do you want the odds before we
Yes.
move on? Okay.
Yep.
This has got the third best odds to win according to this website I'm on at plus 1400. And I heard it's moved up to 11. So it's creeping. It's creeping.
Okay,
And there's
so
Okay.
what are
Here's
the
my basic thought. I think this one is a gimme because it's got 2 Best Picture awards. I think it's going to take international film, and it doesn't have a shot at Best Picture because of it. I think it's a way for a lot of voters to go, sweet, I can get 2 made. I don't have to decide between this and the other because I'm just going to
Yeah.
check this box over here for it.
it's the favorite by a million miles in international. What if it won both?
That would be, I think that might be a first. I mean,
I would
no,
think.
Parasite won
Did it
for
win
Best
both?
Picture and Best Foreign Film. Yeah, I looked it
Okay.
up.
Okay.
And there was another, I think this would be the third movie in the Oscars history. I think there was another one in the 50s that won, but the name escapes me. I know I looked it up a couple of days ago. So
Yeah. Like the original movie of this won the Best Picture in 1930. I looked that up yesterday.
yeah. So there's
Yeah,
that
so
trump card.
there is that
93
trump card.
years later, it's up for this story is up for another Best Picture.
Another one. So that goes to show how
pretty
powerful the
impressive.
story is, right?
Yeah, how about that for a novel, right?
Yeah. I think it's got
Because it was originally a novel
some lasting
in the
power. It's
20s.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's great grandchildren get to hold 2 statues and go
Hell yeah.
beat that. Okay, moving on. Avatar: The Way of Water came in with 4 nominations for picture, sound, visual effects, surprisingly, and production design. This was the #1 box office movie of 2022, which kind of answered my question that I had mentally of, does the Academy Awards ignore box office? It actually doesn't. #1 and 2 for the year are on the Best Picture list.
I don't think it can, right?
Well, I think they're on the list because they have to be. I think they still kind of ignore box office. They don't really take
you
it.
know what? That would be interesting. This one came out really late this year. It came out in December. It filmed for $350 million. Its total worldwide gross $2.9 billion with a B.
No, that's the wrong Avatar.
Oh, nope, sorry, 2.28 billion.
There you go.
As compared to the original's 2.9. So,
but yeah, the original and the sequel are the top 3, or the first and third highest grossing, and doing $2.2 billion since in like 4 months is, just think of that astronomically of how much.
That's pretty nuts.
Like,
it's pretty crazy.
It's been out for 4 months,
and I haven't
3.5 months
out of it.
It's good.
I have no intention of seeing it for something I have to pay for individually.
It's good. But
I didn't like the first one so much. I thought it was beautiful to look at, but I was just like, meh.
Yeah,
whatever.
The first one lost something when you weren't watching in 3D. Other than that, the first one was a John Wayne movie.
Well, I guess that's the question.
It was Pocahontas,
Space Cowboys and Blue Indians.
Yeah.
Do you now rate the Best Picture category as something that is profitable, visually stunning, or do you look at it like the Banshees, for example, which we'll talk about in a second, is completely different when it's more about the connection and the realism and the acting. So there's 2 different spectrums on how you can rate.
There absolutely is.
Yeah.
And I think that the Oscar voters are still on the older side. So I think they're going to go away from the visual more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they're going to focus on that quality of acting and the directing and all that stuff that makes the movie a wonderful whole, as opposed to, I'm not knocking Avatar, but using your computer to make the whole thing. And I saw the first one, whatever. I saw the trailer for the second one. It looked absolutely stunningly beautiful, but it didn't resonate with me. So
yeah, this I was disappointed in the first one myself. As far as Seb goes, I mean, I don't think you can ignore the top grossing at the box office, because it's a trackable data point. There's people paid $2.28 billion in 4 months to see this. There has to be something to it.
Does that mean it's the best movie ever, though? No, it just means everybody saw it.
Ever? Absolutely not.
No.
However, you have to give it the trackable data point for the year of, this made a lot of money. If you take it off the list, to me, it kind of invalidates the list because you're not even giving it a shot. It's like, well, everybody, like Elon Musk didn't just drop $2.9 billion at a theater going, I'll pay for everybody.
I could see him doing that.
Yeah.
He's a bit of an
I could see him doing something like
eccentric
that.
character.
But I mean, not everything on this list made money. As we said with All Quiet, it's not, there's no firm trackable monetary return because of its format for Netflix. But 3 of these films have actually lost money, and we'll get into that as we go. All right, as Seb mentioned, The Banshees of Inisherin. This has got 9 nominations. For Best Picture, obviously, Supporting Actor, Supporting Actress, Original Score, Directing, Best Actor 2 times, and Original Screenplay and Editing. I enjoyed this. I really dug the banter, especially in that thick Irish brogue with all of the dialect. Yeah, I really dug it. I thought Colin Farrell is, he's got a string of things where he's back showing the acting chops that got him noticed in the early 2000s, and away from whatever bad habits and bullshit have sort of tracked as well.
I actually like the female lead that plays Siobhan. I think she was the best actor in the whole show.
Yep.
She was the one that had so many layers to her belief in the movie, and you could just feel that she's there because of her brother, and she doesn't want to be there, but she's there because family. You take care of family, and then it's interesting. Like when you look at movies like, we'll get into Top Gun in a bit, but like Avatar, where it's such a grandiose, epic saga, and then you get to this movie, which is the polar opposite of that, where it's like it's such a specific thing on a remote island, and it's literally just about a relationship between 2 people, but it's so like hyper specific, right? It's not big, it's not grandiose, it's like every little nuance, subtlety is meaningful in this movie. So it's, I enjoyed it too. Acting was brilliant all the way through this
you
movie
look at the
too.
core
So
4 performers.
Yeah.
Colin Farrell, Barry Keoghan,
Brendan Gleeson,
and I can't remember the actor's name, but the sister. All 4 of these core 4 are up for acting nominations, right? The lead actor, actress, in both Gleeson and Keoghan in the supporting role. It gets a little fucking wackadoo somewhere in the middle there.
It takes some dark turns, man. Like
it gets dark. It gets real dark. I mean, and it's got a relatively small budget, $20 million, but it brought back 46.6. It was number 64 on the yearly box office rankings. Mike, you haven't seen this one, correct?
It is very correct.
Oh, you should watch it. It's good.
Yeah, it's on the list. Just the week got away from me. That's all.
It's definitely watchable.
It's interesting too, like when you watch it, and when you watch the battle and banter between the 2 characters and how their relationship evolves or devolves through the movie, how you, or at least for me, I kept switching allegiances to the characters. So I was like, I'm like pro Colin Farrell or Podrick, and then okay, I get the other side of it. I get it. And then I'm like, Colin Farrell, just stop. You're making an idiot. So I felt like I was going back and forth between which character I was leaning towards.
Oh, that's cool.
So
it reminded me of a bad breakup where one is just like, but you loved me yesterday.
And there's no wrong. There's no wrong.
You know what I mean?
There's no real wrong between the 2 things. It's just something. And then you're just going back and forth going like, can't you just guys get along? You did for your whole life, except for now something's changed. And so it's a very laser specific thing that they focus on, was a relationship of 2 people. And that's all the movie's about. And you can't pull it out without Oscar performance acting, I think, in either of those 2 roles. So it took me a good 15 minutes to stop laughing at the very Irish accents and the way they say fucking right, you're going to pub, fucking see you at the pub. That's the worst Irish accent ever, but you know what?
I I wouldn't try and blend in with that one if we go traveling. But yeah, it's a dialogue heavy movie. It's a relationship heavy movie, and
it's no CGI.
It's worth a watch. For me, that's
No.
all I can say. It's worth your time. All right, moving on. Our biopic, Elvis, came in with 8 nominations. In addition to picture, hair and makeup, sound, best actor, cinematography, costume design, editing, and production design. $85 million budget, $287 million on the return, came in number 16 at the box office for the year. I enjoyed this more than I thought I would.
It's probably the one that surprised me the most based on how much I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I echo your statement because I was kind of like, I'm not an Elvis guy. Like, I appreciate Elvis, what he's done. And you know, that everybody knows the story of Elvis, but I didn't know the story behind the story of Elvis.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Like, I haven't seen it. Did it focus a lot on the Colonel? Like on how he sort of screwed Elvis over through the years, stuff like that? Or
it orbits all of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the narrative voice behind the whole movie. So he's the one that's narrating the movie from his side of things. But it definitely deals with the relationship of the two. And I will say though, I don't know if you agree with me on Matt with this one or not, but I thought Tom Hanks was the worst part of the movie.
Absolutely.
Like, really? I could not get over his terrible Dutch accent.
You know, yeah, I was actually discussing this with a coworker yesterday. Yeah, it was Tom Hanks that got me. And that's saying something because it's still Tom Hanks.
Because he's the GOAT, right? It's crazy.
I think, and I know we discussed this about how the Beatles can be considered underrated because you just go, oh, it's the Beatles. I think Elvis is the same way. It's like, oh, it's Elvis. But I'm sure if somebody sat down and actually listened to it, be like, oh, this is why. And I think that's kind of where Tom Hanks has gotten with the acting as well. I mean, if we had taken a bunch of his other things out, it might have been better. But he's also not. He's not the super focus of the movie either. He adds to it. He is the. I guess primary point of view is the best way to put it.
So Elvis is the main character, but Tom Hanks is the lens we see him through.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
So it kind of goes back and forth between like, you know, and there's, I mean, there's a very Don King vibe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, Carney promoter of all Carney promoters.
Yeah.
Really. Like
that's how he treated Elvis, was like just like a circus performer, right?
Yeah.
But you gotta ask the question, if it wasn't for him, would Elvis be Elvis? But on the same sense, it's because of him that Elvis almost worked himself to death, really.
Yeah.
So
he worked himself into an addiction that he couldn't fight, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I some of the things I found interesting were the early life. I didn't realize how
black influenced he was
over a lot of it, which I didn't realize. And it's you see a young BB King, I believe it was. Yeah, a young BB King in there as well. I didn't realize that they were, you know, sort of intertwined at their early careers. This one, like I said, this one surprised me. I watched it last Sunday. I told you guys it was absolutely worth the watch.
It is worth the watch.
Has had more time than Mike to get into that, so that surprised me. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much.
It's very high energy too.
Oh, very much so.
So like as soon as you watch it, you're just like, it's what Elvis personified on stage when you saw him is definitely echoed in the movie, where it's like that same energy that Elvis had with his, you know, dance moves and singing, and his just energy is just magnified through it. And I can absolutely see him winning Best Actor for the Oscars. I really think he's got a good shot at it.
He's neck and neck. Odds-wise, he's neck and neck with Brendan Fraser.
Yeah,
so,
well, you know, Mike.
Yeah.
I think you forgot the odds. What were the odds on the Banshees?
Banshee was number 2 at plus 1100.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm surprised at that.
Well,
actually,
that's an Oscar type movie, right? Slow dialogue, character building.
Yeah.
It's everything they want, right? Like it's absolutely everything they want in a movie. So then that's why.
What about Elvis?
Elvis is plus 8,000.
Plus 8,000. So
it's got no hope. It's not even up for Best Director, so I can't imagine they're going to give it. Oh, they've done before. You've given movies Best Picture, Best Director. I don't know how you get one without the other, but that's just me.
You could have
yeah,
an
Elvis is way
interesting
down the list.
you could have an interesting Oscars because there's so many people up for awards that are deserving through so many different movies. Like you can have one movie win Best Picture, but none of the cast members win Best Actor or Best Supporting
Mhm.
Actor. You know, like The Whale isn't
Well,
up for Best Picture, but apparently Brendan Fraser is like one of the front
yeah,
runners for Best Actor, right? So it's like,
Mhm.
how often do you have a Best Actor
there's
nomination or
for-
Best Actress and yeah,
Yeah,
and not
well,
have
I
it up
mean,
for Best Picture?
and that sentiment leads right into our next picture as well. Everything, everywhere, all at once. Now you can go back in the
Yeah.
archives, ladies and gentlemen, and we did do a deep dive on this a few weeks back. You
That's
can
nominated
find
for
that
every
on
award.
YouTube. Yeah, you can find that on YouTube,
basically.
Facebook, or Apple Podcasts, and sort of catch up with that. Here's our heavy hitter. This got the most nominations of any of the
Yeah.
films on the list, with 11 total nominations. In addition to picture, it's original score, original song for "This Is a Life," best directing, best actress, 2 supporting actress nominations, a supporting actor nomination, costume design, editing, and screenplay. Um, that's it. Came in number 37 on the yearly box office list, a $25 million budget, and they managed to turn that into a $105 million return. In addition to Short Round coming back to us.
Yep.
I mean, we discussed this one at length. Mike, what are the odds on this?
This is the heavy favorite to win Best Picture. It is the heavy favorite to win Best Director, best heavy favorite Best Actress, heavy favorite supporting actor, supporting actress. Like
They might clean up.
it might, but it also they might not get anything. Like you guys say,
They're gonna
like
get something.
I
They're gonna
think
give it something.
Kwan, there's no way he's not going to win. That's just my gut.
I don't know, man. I think Austin Butler has a real shot at winning Best Actor after seeing him do Elvis.
Hold on.
He's supporting actor.
He's supporting actor.
Oh,
he
is
doesn't have a Best
he's not
Actor
in the
nomination.
Best Actor category.
So he's so Kwan's in there against
okay.
Brendan Gleeson and Barry Cogan.
Yeah, and Judd Hirsch and Brian Tyree Henry from Causeway, but he's a minus 2,000 favorite. Like that's some heavy odds, man. Heavy odds to win. And he's won every other award. Like he has won in every, the whole season. He's swept them all, and it's such a wonderful story. We've talked about it, when we did our everything show, but it's such an amazing comeback story, and I don't see him not winning. And I will probably tear up when he does win and gives a speech because he's just
I mean,
he's a huge figure of my childhood, right? Like those movies that he was in, I love them to this day. So
Dr. Jones,
that and even the Goonies.
Love Dr. Jones.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
and
the worst
it's,
accent
like
ever.
It's they got to win something with the Oscars being so late. I think the big problem is if you're winning left, right, and center, the Golden Globes and the BAFTAs and everything else. I think a lot of times their voters are like, well, time to move on. Like he did a good job. His trophy shelf is full. Let's find somebody else.
So this goes back to the Oscars are kind of old fashioned because this movie is very modern. It's like meme culture. It's
so that's the only thing that I'm concerned about is because it's too modern that a lot of the older decision makers will be like, this is too out there.
Like I think the actors will probably win. They'll probably maybe 2 out of the 4 will win. But I don't think it's a shoe in to win best picture just because of that.
Like my dad tried to watch it and he's just like, I don't get it. I don't get why this
movie. I've talked to a lot of people that have tried to watch it. Like, what the hell is this? It's too out there for them.
So. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I guess The Fabelmans is next.
The Fabelmans is next. 7 nominations: Best Picture, Director, Original Score, with John Williams surprisingly teaming up with Mr. Spielberg again. Up for Best Actress, Supporting Actor, Original Screenplay, and Production Design. They turned $40 million into a $2 million loss so far. However, this has only been out since November, so they've still got a really good shot of making its money back. Like, I don't think this is not going to break even and make a little bit of money, but
I think Spielberg can afford it. The $2 million loss.
It wasn't a wide release either, right? It was probably very limited, and it probably was. I bet you it was probably in a couple hundred theaters.
Yeah, and this currently sitting at number 64 at the box office. This is going to take a couple of rentals, really.
Yeah.
It's a fine movie. It just doesn't get going until an hour and a half into the movie,
Oof.
right? So it's like
Yeah.
the Fablemans are. So Steven Spielberg wrote a film about him in high school and his early life. I mean, obviously, it's not Spielberg; it's called the Fablemans. So the Fableman family is basically Spielberg's family, but they are different names. So
Yeah.
it's basically a story of his life, but he's using like a alter ego, basically. And it's not until the family starts breaking up about an hour and a half into the movie that it really kind of the drama of it starts taking over. So, but yeah, it's like you really get a sense of Spielberg's milestone aha moments as a child for when he decided to become a movie maker,
Yeah.
basically. So it just basically it's like a stamp of all these moments in his life as a kid when he realized that he's destined to become makers of some of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess it deserves to be up there. I don't think it's gonna win.
No, it's pretty low on the list.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm just gonna break in here with a little bit of fact. I was curious because I'd heard this years ago, and I wanted to make sure before I opened my mouth I was somewhat correct. The Academy now allows members of all branches to vote in a category, but has relied on multiple committees in the past to controversial results. Those who participate must watch a percentage of submitted films and submit a score for each film they watch. Those scores determine the films that make the shortlist. All voting members are eligible to select the Best Picture nominees. Nominations voting is conducted using online ballots, and all votes are tabulated by PricewaterhouseCoopers, and the announcer then results are announced live. In the
So
past,
it's not done by committee then anymore.
no, in the
No.
past,
Okay.
it used to be there's some sort of committee, and you were allowed to vote in your own category and Best Picture. But regardless, it looks like Best Picture is just open for
Yeah.
all members of the Academy.
Sounds like an MVP vote in a sports league or something now. It's just
Yeah.
you get your vote and you just vote for whoever you feel. And then if it makes the list, it makes the list.
Yeah, that
There's
that's
also
one.
criteria too, like you have to like rate movies that you watch, right? So
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
So, okay, so here's one that I haven't seen. I also didn't see the Fablemans. Oh wait, Mike, did you give us the odds on that one while I was?
It's
I missed that?
plus 2,900. It's way down there.
Okay.
It's tied with Top Gun, ironically, but I think Top Gun's got a way better shot.
Same.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The savior of Hollywood has I think it's got a real shot.
Okay. I mean,
My opinion.
yeah.
But
So here's so I haven't seen the Fablemans. I also have not seen our next entry, which is Tar. 6 nominations. It's picture, actress, directing, original screenplay, cinematography, and editing. It's number 106 on the box office list for this year. $35 million budget, and it is currently down $15 million. It's only raked in 20. That's a big deficit to come back.
It's a very specific movie, though.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's very good. I really enjoyed it. And I mean, Kate Blanchett is one of my favorite actresses. She's phenomenal in it. If Michelle Yeoh wasn't in the running, I would see it automatically going to Kate Blanchett because she does such a great performance of it. It is not a biopic though, despite how it is marketed, because it's very cleverly marketed as like this actual person named Lydia Tarr, but it's not. It's 100% fictional composer, right? So it's basically like the downfall of a composer, of a famous composer, and with rigged with controversy throughout the movie that she just ignores, and then it comes back near the end to kind of like creep back into her life. So but it's good. I really enjoyed it. But again, music and composing, it's something I studied, so I have a relationship with like sympathy. Well, I can't say that word.
Symphony.
Thank you,
You're
symphony,
welcome.
and concerts and stuff like that, because I've attended many of those in my lifetime. So it's a world that I understand. So it's interesting though, because I think it's the most modern of all the movies. So like when she's on a plane, for example, like she's scrubbing things with wet wipes when she's going into the bathroom. Like it's very like
Oh,
after
interesting.
COVID,
Yeah. Okay.
but
Cool.
it doesn't talk about it, but the subtleties of like the way
Just
the
there.
world behaved after COVID is there. So like she
Interesting.
helps, there's one instance where she helps somebody into a wheelchair that's fallen out of the wheelchair, and this old lady is really like grimy, and the immediate scene right after that is her running through her apartment, tearing her clothes off and like immediately scrubbing her whole body down because she's terrified of getting sick because she has to lead a con- um, an orchestra in like days basically, right? So yeah, it's interesting. It's again this there's a very similar pattern with a lot of best picture novel of films
Mhm.
where there's a big slow burn for like the first hour.
Yeah, I heard the
For
first hour
the
is really slow, and then it just once it starts
Yeah,
going, it's holy crap.
yeah, it's just because you're creating all these relationships, right? And
Mhm.
you just can't get it's not like Top Gun where it's just boom right out of the bat, right?
Yeah.
But with all these like relationship movies and specific movies about character and the downfall of characters and relationships, you have to build the relationships through all the characters before you can destroy them.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
it's not going to hold any weight if you just do it right at the beginning.
Yeah.
So you have to like take time to live with the characters in the movie. And that's not just for Tar, that's for Elvis, for Banshees, for
And I'm sure the Fablemans is the same, like
Fableman's
you
the
guys
same.
said. Yeah,
You have to
absolutely.
build this beaver-esque perfect family before you can
Mhm.
destroy it, right?
Yep,
So
absolutely, and that takes time.
yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch
yeah,
it tonight. I really want to see it.
do it. It's
Okay.
long. It's like 240,
Well, I might have to
which
do it over
is
2 nights next. I'll
yeah.
probably fall asleep. No offense to
It
the movie, but I will fall asleep.
there
Well,
is
you
a
got a busy day.
Yeah, there's a pattern with a lot of best pictures is that they're usually about the 2.5 hour mark,
Yeah,
if not longer.
yeah,
Very
Mhm.
rarely are they within 2 hours for some reason,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Very rarely. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, but highly recommend everyone see that. As a best picture nod, I don't think it's gonna win.
No.
What's it's got to be pretty bad odds for that, I think,
What do
isn't it?
you think it would be? Where would you put it if you had to
I
guess?
would say it would rank fourth or fifth, I think.
And it is 6th.
Okay, so pretty close. Yeah,
It's actually ahead of Elvis in the odds,
Interesting.
and ahead of so it's
I can see that.
Tar is plus 6,500. Then Elvis is 8,000. Avatar is 10,000. Same in Triangle of Sadness and Women Talking are all 10,000.
I hate to say this, but I really feel like Tom Hanks's performance in Elvis has really pulled the movie down a bit.
Now you
Right,
really
and
want
that's
to make me
weird to say.
Yeah,
It's
it's
weird
weird to
to
say that.
pull Tom Hanks
Yeah,
as the weak link. However, when you pull Tom Hanks at the weak link, the next sort of realization is how good is everybody else
yeah.
that Tom
Well,
Yeah,
it's
Hanks
not
is.
even
exactly.
Tom Hanks' performance. It's just his fucking accent. It's
Oh,
Daniel Craig all over again, right? For
It's
me
the
with Knives
it's
Out.
yeah. Okay.
Do you
it's
know what
not
I
his
mean?
Because
This is
that,
accent, it's
like
just how
yeah.
he says
Okay.
everything.
he's
Okay.
trying to be Dutch, and it was like it would have been better if he just used his real voice.
I thought the Colonel was like from the South or something. I didn't realize he
Yeah.
was.
No, he's a Dutch immigrant without a passport,
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
okay.
yeah, no,
and
There you
and
go.
the
he
colonel's
yeah.
got the colonel is a shifty, shady
He's
piece
a
of
Mhm.
crap.
shifty yeah. He's not
He's like
American.
Oh,
he's
okay.
John
All right
King.
then.
That's not
He
even
is
his real name
every
either. Tom Parker.
yeah,
He took on
Oh,
that name.
interesting.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
He's
there you go.
every shifty wrestling promoter I've ever watched a movie or read a book on.
Yeah, he
Okay,
definitely
so
feels shifted.
we're
Yeah.
getting
Okay.
a little off track again. Let's knock out these last few movies. I screwed up my notes when I was taking this, so instead of the next alphabetical order, we're going to Triangle of Sadness. 3 nominations: picture, original screenplay, directing. They took $10.5 million, turned it into 24.5 for spot 88 on the yearly box office gross. I watched this last night.
It's
Hot
fucked up, isn't
garbage.
it?
Absolutely hot garbage. You
Really?
see the trailer, and what got me was Woody Harrelson is in it. The movie
Yeah.
is divided into 3 very distinct parts and set pieces. There is you follow a young modeling couple for the first half hour, 40 minutes, and then that leaps onto a luxury yacht cruise. So not like one of these big giant ships, but it's something much smaller, much more intimate, with a cast of mostly Russian oligarchs on there, and the leading to Captain Woody Harrelson has some pretty good stuff in there. You got to watch the background for a lot of the physical comedy in this, and which is well done. We did laugh. I mean, there were points when we're super hysterical. It's the way they do it. It's sort of, this is happening in this back corner, and this is happening in the foreground, and this is going on here. So your eye has to track everything, and then it leads to a bunch of them after a shipwreck, stuck on a deserted island, and the juxtaposition as a crew member, some of the guests, and like a higher ranking customer service officer, and how a bunch of that sort of switches around. I want to say watch it because it's Woody Harrelson, but save yourself the pain.
It's
Is where I'm
pretty
going with this.
it's
This is
pretty
it is.
messed up though.
Yeah, I thought it was. You watch the trailer and you sort of get a sense that, oh, this is going to be fucking bizarre. We're going to go through this. I thought there would be more on the island and on the boat than there was. The opening third of the movie really gobbles up a bunch of it, and is it does nothing. They spend like 40 minutes on these two characters, and you don't feel good for either one of them. It is designed to set up stuff in the third act on the island, but you don't. They're just unlikable. They're just absolute fucking
Yeah.
garden
That's a
fires of human beings. I
it's a
wouldn't waste
very
my time on this one.
that's a very tricky thing when you're creating an anti-hero, or like characters that are bad. I mean, where they do it
Mhm.
successful is in the Wolf of Wall Street, because like
Mhm.
Jordan Belfort is not a likable character,
No.
but because you have Leo doing him, and he's surrounded by other unlikable characters, he might be the best version of the unlikable characters. But yeah, you have to be super careful when you're doing a troubled character that is unlikable, because your audience may not resonate with that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
but yeah, I
I
heard it
think
was
that
like really weird and fucked up and not for everyone. So
yeah,
why would it be nominated for Best Picture then, you think?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know. I think the biggest mistake this movie made is Woody Harrelson does not um, make it to the third act, and he's only in the second act, and I think that's where they just fucked themselves for the third act.
The second
Um,
act.
it's just they didn't move Woody's character into it, and
Yeah.
then the ending was one of those. Um, there's a bit of a twist for the ending, but it ends up being a non-ending. Um, I'm getting shit from Sarah for spoilers. However, I'm
It
also
doesn't matter.
shitting on this movie and telling people not to watch it. So it's not really a spoiler. It's if you think this is going to be there, that's not the fucking case. So don't bother. I regret spending $7 on this. I honestly do. And I am going to have to apologize to Sarah and my wife for making them sit through that.
Okay. Interesting. I'll watch it just to see. Now I
Yeah,
think,
you know what? I'm always
yeah,
interested in your opinions on these things. Mikey, what are the odds on this one?
Very low, plus 10,000.
that might be like the lowest
Is
one
that
on the
our dead
list.
last?
It's dead last, tied with Avatar and Women Talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
All right, let's move on to one we've all seen, shall we? That I think all of us are pretty on board with. Our number 2 box office getter of the year, 6
I will.
nominations: Best Picture, Original Song for "Hold My Hand," Editing, Sound, Visual Effects, and Adapted Screenplay. $170 million Mr. Cruise managed to turn into $1.5 billion. This one we had to wait for. Top Gun Maverick. This was scheduled for a COVID thing, and they said nope, we're holding on to it, which screamed to me at the time they fucked it up.
yeah, that's your
Not
first
the case.
impression, right?
Not
Yeah.
the case at all.
Not the case.
No.
It's also a story that's been brewing for like 30 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So I think the reason it's so good is because it was allowed to nurture and change and shift for 30 years. because
Mhm.
I can't be the only one that thinks that they wanted to do a Top Gun sequel like in the 90s.
The early 2000s, we really started seeing the rumors run heavily
Yeah.
through the motion picture industry that they were working on scripts. They wanted to do this. Tom was on board, and it turned into that white rhino, that that snuffleupagus, where it's like you hear about it and there's something might be going on, but nothing really materialized until they started actually sitting
Yeah.
down to shoot it. And I was worried about it. I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't think they needed to touch it. I was dead wrong.
Yeah, it was
every choice made to delay this movie and do this movie, I thought was stupid. I was wrong, and I paid to see it, and I will happily pay to see it again.
I think the reason they delayed it is because Tom Cruise has a very specific way of wanting to film this movie. He was very adamant about doing everything for real. You know, the real shots are actual fighters flying in the air. It's not CGI'd. And he's like, no, we're doing this right. And there's whatever the incident was with somebody not wearing a mask on set and he blew off on
that
him
was Mission
because
Impossible.
Yeah, it was Mission Impossible.
oh, the ghost, the new one that's come out. Yeah. So okay, so it's wrong movie, but like he's very passionate about how this film should have been made, and he's right. Like this was the first movie I saw of the Best Picture list, and at the time I didn't think it was going to get nominated for Best Picture. But when I left the theater, and the more I thought about it, I was like, this is a 10 out of 10 movie. And I thought to myself, this might be like one of the best movies I've seen in like the last 10 years.
Yes.
And the more I like sat and thought with it, I'm like, this was a fantastic movie. So, and
Yes,
after seeing,
it did everything right. Like it had the nostalgia, it tugged at your heartstrings with all the past stuff.
yeah,
It was a movie you had to see in the theater. Like I haven't seen it since I've seen it
well,
twice.
it's
In the
same like
theater, right?
Avatar, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But I saw both at like the maximum capacity that you could see it in the theater.
Yeah.
And the feeling I had when I left the theater for Top Gun is just completely like on a more emotional depth, connected level than Avatar. Avatar, I was like, wow, I saw something great. Whereas Top Gun, I'm like, man, I feel so good watching that movie.
Top Gun is what the movie theater was made for.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like it left you feeling so good. You came out, big smile on your face. Like me and the wife went the first time, and I took Junior to go see it the second time, and he didn't move the whole movie. He's 14. He didn't move the whole movie. Didn't talk. Just stared straight at the screen. And when it was over, Dad, that was the best movie I've ever seen. Like it blew his mind. How fun it was. I'm like, that's what movies used to be like when we were kids.
Yep.
It's got so many
lost art.
Yeah, it's got so many awesome layering options in the movie too, like with the relationships between the cast members, and like it brings back Penny Benjamin. Like it's not just action, it's not just flying. There's like there's deep rooted things that echo from the original one 30 years or whatever, how many years later. So yeah, it's
and somehow Tom Cruise is so likable, considering he is a raging lunatic.
That's what makes him fun, man.
And with the Penny Benjamin thing, they didn't really bring her back. They pulled her from a line in the first 15 minutes of the first movie.
But it was brilliant.
She was just a name. All she was the butt of a joke. Right?
Yeah.
Like it was just you did a flyby on 4 towers and one admiral's daughter,
Penny Benjamin.
Yeah. And that's how they brought her into it. And I thought that was brilliant.
But like even like when they echoed that original movie, like the volleyball scene, which is a football scene in this one, right? Like
or the motorbike going down the tarmac at the Air Force Base is like shot for shot from
but
the
there's
original.
Specific reasons why that shot is in there, right? You're like, oh, here we go. Here's the volleyball scene again, but it's not about them being naked on a beach. It's about bonding them as people, right? So
and it shows that Maverick hasn't really changed.
No,
and he never will.
From
that's why he's on Admiral
to his early 50s. Maverick is still fucking Maverick. Right now, I feel we can get into this down the line.
Yeah, we should move on.
I think there's a lot of meat on the bone for this, especially if it comes out. But we got one more to get to, and then we can sort of have an overall discussion. Women talking. This is the biggest loser out there on this list right now.
Okay, be careful what you say, because
hold on. Let me explain.
Matt's talking, by the way.
I'm not done explaining why. It is the biggest loser on the list. It cost them $130 $35 million
Oh my
to
God.
film.
Financially
7.
speaking, yeah.
I don't even know what it's about. That just
It's
sounds like a lot.
$127 million in the hole. There is
Wow.
no fucking way this thing's going to make any money. Like the other two that are on the list as not having made money, there's still a shot that in on-demand and back-end stuff they can make
Sure.
some money back. I can't see this one making any money back unless they bought it a Powerball lottery ticket.
It's a very
However, it
powerful
wasn't
movie,
the lowest
apparently.
grossing movie out there. It was something like 100 and I forgot to write that down. I'll find it in a minute. It's got 2 nominations for Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay. Yeah, it's I think number 73 on the box office list. Like it is. This is something. None of us has seen it, correct?
No.
It is very okay. So I'll give you the film synopsis if you want.
Yes, please.
Because my
Absolutely.
sister, I was talking to my sister about it, and it's actually a super powerful topic. So, the women of an isolated religious colony reveal a shocking secret about the colony's men. For years, the men have occasionally drugged the women and then raped them. The
Good.
truth comes out, and the women talk about their new situation. So they would like the premise of the movie is like these women were drugged and like basically raped while unconscious, I think, and they didn't even like they're just like no, nothing happened. So and it's
Wow.
about the secret coming out of this religious colony. So
That's some heavy stuff.
yeah, it was only I think it was released in the States around Christmas, I think. So it's only been out in the States since December, late December, I believe.
Yeah,
So
its first release was in September in some art houses, and then it
yeah.
slowly gained some traction.
The only reason I haven't watched it is because I actually just went through the list alphabetically and I didn't get last two. There's no reason whatsoever other than like, yeah.
Wow.
So,
and
what's
it
the
doesn't
odds
even,
on it
like, oh, plus 10,000.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's at the bottom. But that's not even like it's such a heavy subject. I don't even know if I'd want to watch that. Like I know we all probably should because of the subject, but doesn't sound like a fun couple hour experience.
I got a bunch of women in the house here, so I mean I probably should at some point.
Matt's actually ruled by women, by the way.
Feel shame on behalf of my entire gender. And just to correct, it was not number 73. I was clearly taking notes tired last night. In the top 200 box office films of the year, this was 190.
All right.
And I have seen nothing underneath it or heard of anything underneath it. So this has got a decent cast to it as well.
Rooney Mara's in it, and I love her as an actress.
She's amazing.
Yep.
She's so good.
Sarah Polley is the director and writer on this one.
Yeah.
As well. Like it's not a casting problem.
I think it's a subject problem. I think it's
specific thing, right? Like it's a very heavy thing to talk about. So, but
yeah, and we got Frances McDormand in there as well. Like she
amazing
won for
cast,
Fargo years ago. You'd recognize Stella McCarthy as well. It's I don't know, subject matter or marketing maybe, the marketing departments might have gone, oh, not touching that one. Much like you kind of hinted at on the COVID stuff with Tar. You don't want to do a deep dive into any opinions on COVID at this stage because it is such a polarizing topic.
It is. Yeah.
Women talking, it shouldn't be a polarizing topic. Like this is just flat out creepy and icky, and that might be
it's based on true events too. So,
oh God, yeah.
So it's a heavy topic that needs to be addressed, I think, at some point. But yeah, I will get to it eventually. So I have 4 questions for you guys.
Yes, absolutely. So let's break these down. What I'm going to do for everybody watching along, I'm going to post these questions up. What do you want to start with, Seb?
What movie should absolutely not be on the Best Picture list in your mind? It's just out, like it shouldn't be there whatsoever. I will give my answer if you want me to go first.
Do it.
But I think all of ours is probably the same.
Okay.
But we already talked about why it's on there, but I don't think Avatar is
Yeah.
even in the.
It's,
It's not a Best Picture movie.
100%.
I crossed Avatar off the list
Yeah,
last night.
because of how much it's
Triangle of
grossed.
Sadness should absolutely not be on this list.
And maybe that will change
Absolutely
if I
not.
actually see it. But yeah, it's just not like every one of these movies deals with relationships, and that's kind of like how you get to the
True.
Best Picture is because the characters come through and shine through. Avatar is just the spectacle of a movie where it's like you not really watching it for the relationships with characters, you're watching it for the CGI, the 3D, the epic scale of it, right? So, but even those movies that are epic, like Gladiator, for example, it's still about a specific character and relationships that you can connect with. And like, you don't connect to CGI characters where it's fully CGI. I just think it should win for visual effects for sure, but
Yes.
it shouldn't be out there for Best Picture at all.
I agree. It's probably got a lot of technical front runners. Like it should win.
Yeah.
Visual effects, production design, sound, because you're not making sound on a computer. Mike, you agree with those sentiments? What are you thinking?
Mike's computer might be an issue here.
Mike may be in a side conversation here somewhere, or has muted us.
Mike is
technically. I'm going with what I said. Triangle of Sadness. Sweet Jesus, don't waste your time on that piece of garbage. And loyal friend of the show, Sarah, is gonna get herself banned from Seb's life, saying Top Gun shouldn't be on the list.
I will.
I don't know about that. I think I sat next to Sarah when she damn near cried at one scene. So, yeah.
Just reinvite Mike. He's gonna try relogging to the stream.
Okay, so we've lost Mike. I'm going to attempt to get that over there. Give me one quick second. As we sort all this stuff.
Sarah
out.
And I are now
any
fighting.
Other thoughts on is there anything on this list, Seb, that you are intrigued to see now?
We've been talking after talking to my sister, honestly. And Triangle Sadness. Like now I want to see it just because of your take on it.
You know what? And I'd be interested to sit down and chop it up with you.
Yeah.
And as to how that goes, but I was expecting a lot of Triangle Sadness to get weird and whatnot. And
but when it's nominated for Best Picture, you're expecting it to be a good movie, right? So, hey, Mike, are you back with us? Yeah. Mike may have muted himself, so we may have lost Mike for the remainder of this podcast, but we'll try to fix that as we go.
We're gonna work on it. Mike, you can post in the comments still and get your stuff in there.
Yeah.
What question are we asking next?
So the next question would be, what's the dark horse to win? The one that is
hear you guys again.
Oh, there you go, Mike. So you agree with our Avatar takes? Probably.
Yes.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. So so which movie is your...
and honestly, I agreed with everything you guys were saying about it up
until
about 9:30 last night.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, this
now I want to see that.
Yeah, I really want to see Triangle of Sadness now.
Okay, so who's your dark horse to win? Like the film that you don't think is going to win, but you'd be like, I kind of want this film to win.
You wouldn't be upset if it did, right?
Yeah.
Like oh, that.
Like low key, like this movie might actually win for certain reasons. So
I don't think it's low key for me, but Top Gun is a dark horse for sure.
Okay.
Like it's kind of low on the list. It doesn't have great odds, but if something is going to dethrone Everything Everywhere All at Once, I think Top Gun can do it. Because I know that because it goes Everything Everywhere, the Banshees, All Quiet, and then Top Gun is down there in the fourth spot. I think it's got a real shot. Just of the Hollywood saving of, all the things it's done to bring people back to the movie theater.
See, that was my dark horse until a couple of days ago, until I saw that interview with Steven Spielberg. So my dark horse is actually Elvis.
Oh, okay, cool.
Because I keep going back to how much better that movie was than I thought it was going to be, and how much I enjoyed that movie. Like it's good. It's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I find myself rooting for Elvis the entire time, even though it's going to go downhill very soon. So what about you, Matt?
I was thinking Everything Everywhere All at Once originally, but the more I've thought about it, I'm going with the Banshees of Invershin.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
I think that's got some, after running some of this stuff down, um, it- Everything Everywhere is a huge contender to pull off a bunch of statues.
Yeah.
Um, it wouldn't upset me if it won. I, I think the only one that would upset me is if Triangle of Sadness or Avatar won, but
What if Avatar wins
I'm
it?
going to
Holy
shit on
smokes.
this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think and then Sarah coming in here, Top Gun is her dark horse, but she's also got a 747 icon there, which I
Not a
don't think
fighter
she knows
jet.
what
Yeah,
airplanes
come
are.
on now.
So
Get with the emojis.
going right back into the next question then is the film that you personally want to win, and for me it's Top Gun. I want Top Gun to win it. I really do. Just because I think it was the most energetic out of all the movies I watched, and the feeling I got out of it was just I think it's a perfect movie to go back after COVID to watch, because you're like, now no one's had this experience in years, and you come back in
Yeah.
and you watch almost like a perfect movie
Mhm.
that's meant to be in theaters. And this, I just keep going back to the Spielberg conversation with him hugging Tom Cruise and saying, "You saved Hollywood."
Mhm.
Basically, this movie has saved the way films were meant to be seen.
Yeah.
So I can't, like, that just is, that nugget is in my mind thinking that it's gonna win.
It almost
So,
needs to win.
yeah, I can
Like,
see that. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it just because of what everything we've just talked about,
Yeah.
it's the impact is so profound, and more than just, oh, this is a good movie. It's impacted every facet of Hollywood.
Yeah.
It needs to win Best Picture.
Yeah.
But will it? Who knows? But I think it needs to, and that's my.
So
pick
is that
too.
what you want to win?
Yeah, I really want it to win. I just think it's kind of the Kihi Kwan thing. It's like, it's such a good story. It's such a feel good story, a comeback. It's the same thing. It's a huge comeback in such a grander scale than one person. It's a whole, like, the whole industry.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go 3 for 3 on this. I'd like to see Top Gun pull it off. Action
Screw
movies
you, Sarah. No, just kidding.
Action movies are so very rarely recognized, period.
Yeah.
Outside of, great makeup for this, that, or the other thing.
Yeah.
But I think Tom is Tom is hungry for he deserves it.
But the Oscars notoriously don't like him.
He put this movie on his back, though. Like, he carried
he did.
everything from the production all the way through.
Like you were saying, between Top Gun and Mission Impossible, Tom, in a tough time, put everything on the line. He's got the best deal in Hollywood financially for a reason. He's
got carte blanche to make a movie, right?
Yeah.
Let's not forget, Tom's been up for Best Actor before for Born on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Back in '89.
And Magnolia, was he nominated for Magnolia as well?
He might have been, actually.
I think so.
Supporting actor. He's a great dramatic actor if he decides to do it.
Yeah. And he's very rarely the worst part of a film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and he doesn't do it often, but once in a while he'll step out of his typical character. He'll do something like Collateral, where he's the villain. He'll do something where he's a raging alcoholic, like Last Samurai, which I thought was a snub. He'll do something like Tropic Thunder, where he is not even a main character. He is just a fucking highlight. I'd like to see this win for not just Tom, but for action movies in general, because normally they're just they're popcorn bullshit. They'll bring in a bunch of money, they'll be a fun ride, but they're popcorn bullshit, and that's not always the case. There are some really, really good action movies out there that have been snubbed, and I think Top Gun really needs to win this just for the whole, on so many reasons.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so to the last point, which one do you actually think is going to win?
I think it's everything everywhere all at once.
Same. I think it's going to go to that one.
It's a juggernaut, man. It's so original. It's so different. It's modern.
It checks a lot of boxes too. It's entertaining. It's very well acted. The script's phenomenal. The message of the movie is great. It is a very interesting movie. It's not for everybody.
No.
but I actually think it's gonna take it home.
I think for anybody older than us, it's not really for anybody older. No. Like I think we're at the sort of at the high end of the sport, right?
Yeah, Matt, what about you?
I'm gonna go different. I think this is gonna piss off a lot of people.
Triangle sadness,
including myself.
Totally. Although,
it's no, it's gonna be Elvis. I think it'll be Elvis.
Yeah,
I think it's for a lot of the reasons we've discussed, where maybe it wasn't the best thing, but I think it will cause enough outrage, but still have enough grit to it, legitimacy to it, that it can pull it off.
I mean, they do like their musical biopics.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think Austin Butler's going to win Best Actor.
Same.
I don't think it'll win Best Picture. That's just my opinion, but I think he's gonna beat Brendan Fraser and win Best Actor. You can just see it, because again,
I really want Brendan Fraser to win, though.
I want Austin Butler to win.
I'd like to see Brendan Fraser pull that off, but we can get into a Brendan Fraser thing down the line. I just think there's enough legitimacy to Elvis that you can't totally slag on it.
Yeah.
But there's also enough meat on other bones that you're in the top third, sure, for contenders, but can you make a case for a better film? Absolutely.
Well, we'll find out on Sunday, tomorrow.
We will. And stay tuned for the page. For everybody listening, we'll shoot some things out as to what's going on, and
we'll see how accurate we are with our opinions.
Being wrong.
Right.
Thanks for joining us on a Sunday morning.
Thank you.
I think we also got a lot of meat on the bone for other shows. Next week, folks, if you are listening, we will be, I think we're planning on a Thursday night show, as there's some commitments over the weekend. So stay tuned. We will announce the upcoming topic for that. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, and stay tuned, because Spotify is coming in the extremely near future.
We're on Spotify now.
We'll have that, and then we're going to work on a few other platforms. We're taking the training wheels off and getting out there. So like, subscribe, share, give us 5 stars. Sweet Jesus, somebody will shit on us down the road, but if you're listening, we know you personally, so do us a solid.
That's right.
Good day, how do?
Good day, how do?
There it is. I love it.
Good afternoon.
See you next time.